just a boy. Christmas brought so much joy. Couldn't wait for the presents and laughter. I couldn't sleep late at night, looking for Santa with lights. Those are the memories I still remember. Then I became a man, lost sight of who I am. But right in front of me was the answer. 'Cause on Christmas I feel joy, and I turn back to a boy. The answer is to stay young forever. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song.
Hello, Star Wars fans. You know, there's just 115 days until Christmas 2023, and I think we're going to have a fun show today. We're able to have Star Wars Meg with us today. Hello, my friend. Hello.
Hello, Santa.
There you are. I was like, I was just talking to you. No, I've got a few fun topics I think to talk about here as we get into the news of the week, and it's all Ahsoka, right? As Star Wars news goes this week, there's really not much out there other than Ahsoka news. The one bit that is there would be the Haslab Ghost, that vintage collection mammoth ship, right? The Ghost is nearing the second tier unlock, which is Kanan Jarrus. It needs to get to 14,000. It's at 12,326, so they're just off another 1,600 to hit Kanan Jarrus. I think that's pretty much a sure thing. And then 17,000 to get Zeb. So to get all the figures unlocked, 17,000. And then I guess Haslab is kind of hinting, promising that there might be additional things unlocked if they hit 20,000. So there's a couple things. And then the last bit there is, and I was talking with Nerd Mafia yesterday, that once the funding ends, it says it ends in 5 days, 12 hours, and 32 minutes. They stop taking backers at 11:59 on September 6th. If you try to order one on September 7th of 2023 or on March 15th of 2024, too bad for you. You're going to have to get it secondhand on the secondhand market through eBay or something like that. And you'll have to pay whatever the folks who have them charge you. That's so. If you want to get in on the Ghost, and we've only seen little hints of the Ghost in the show itself so far. In episode 2, no, yeah. Episode 1. Episode 1, we saw them passing by the Ghost, but they were really, really close. And it was hard to make it up. But then I saw you cover this where you could see Hera standing in front of the Ghost there at the Stonehenge place, right? So we are down to 5 days, 12 and a half hours until this thing closes, and we haven't had a true proper introduction of the Ghost in Ahsoka in live action. So we've seen if you look at the right place at the right time and you pause the movie exactly right, you can find the Ghost in the Rise of Skywalker. So it's there, but you really got to be looking for it to see it. And other than that, we haven't really had a true proper introduction to it, and it could be kind of hurting the backing of this project right now. It's just, I don't know, the timing's a little bit off, right? Uh, Matt Risman, if they blow the ghost up, no, no, a la Razor Crest. I don't think that's gonna in the cards because we have seen it in Rise of Skywalker. So I think we're safe. I think we're safe.
Are we sure J.J. Abrams didn't just copy and paste familiar ships?
No, that's very probable actually. But I think it'll be in there because I could see Dave is he's continuing the story of Rebels in Ahsoka, wanting to keep that iconic ship as part of the show, and not only that, but then when his movie comes up, wanting to have it in there as well, right? So, um, I think we're fairly safe. Now, I know you collect some of the what are they? I've got them right there. The Funkos, right? You're a
I
Funko
do.
collector, not a vintage collection, and this thing is enormous, right? I'm gonna guess that you're not. This isn't up your alley.
Not something this size. I just wouldn't have anywhere to put it.
That's the biggest issue, right? It is so big. Let's see. It's got the dimensions here, right? So 71 centimeters, right, wide, 28 inches. That's 2 feet in U.S. Measure. 87 and a half long and 33 high. That's a big uh, piece of furniture. Um,
28 inches. I have to just work in 12s, so 12 plus 12. Yeah,
24.
that's quite big. I don't know where I'd put that.
Yeah, a little over 2 feet wide, right? So it's a big, it's a big ship. And I saw a comparison to the Razor Crest and a comparison to the Falcon, and it's bigger than either of those. So it's the largest vehicle that Hasbro's ever produced in a Star Wars line. So um, it's it's quite huge. And then it also then you know it's got the let's see, go back up here to the top, and you can see it has the Phantom too right there that we've seen in Ahsoka, but and it has Chopper kind of baked in, which is one complaint, and you can see it there. See, Chopper's kind of baked into the ship, where um, he should be able to come out, but he's not. In here, he's kind of molded in there.
Does anyone remember the 2002 Obi-Wan starship? And R4 was just stuck in there.
Okay, I don't remember
It
that,
reminds
but
me of that, and it
yeah,
was quite frustrating.
that's the only bit. Well, that's the biggest complaint that I've heard about it is that Chopper's stuck in there. Of course, you can get a freewheeling Chopper vintage collection figure, but it's a bit different than that one, and the scale's just not exactly the same. So it would look a little odd to have Chopper next to Chopper. They should have had it where you can put the Chopper figure in there and remove it. But anyway,
Well,
that's what it
Santa,
is.
Matt Rissman had some very good news that he shared with me, and I think you're going to really like this. So Lego announced a $30 set based on Rey. Yeah, you've got it.
Oh boy, I do like this a lot. Go ahead, you finish your thought.
Well, we were saying with Matt in the Discord that it's probably based on the holiday special.
That's right. That's right. And I commented hashtag FinnRay confirmed because you see Finn, Ray, Chewbacca, Porg, and BB-8. There's that's your family right there.
Are you saying that Ray is trying to get some stuffing?
Well, I'm saying that
Because there's a
I was
because it's
going
like a
to.
roast turkey. It's
Well,
it's like a Thanksgiving joke.
there is a well, yeah, but there is another. Here you got the sacred texts, right? But Ray and Finn, the part that Matt was pointing out, and I thought was funny as well, is there you go. See, Finn's reclined. He's ready. Um, but in this shot here, they're having the holiday feast, and this porg is not enjoying life. He's probably his sibling up there getting munched on, and he's like, "Hey, that's Sarah. Why are you eating Sarah? That's just rude."
See, you made it worse by giving it a name.
I had to, but it's fantastic. So I've always been more on the Finn Ray relationship thing, right? I've never been on the Kylo or Ben, right? I'm not on that bandwagon at all. So Finn Ray's always been more my preference. So there you go.
I never really cared about shipping these characters, but I think Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga did Finpo because
Yeah,
they're kind of like hugging at the start.
yeah. There were a lot of people who were kind of hoping for that kind of relationship to be expressed in Star Wars with some main characters, but they went a different direction with it. So there's a lot of uh, you know shipping going on. Most of them are with Ben and Ray, and I'm just not. That's not me. So anyway, I think it's a fun set. You said it's $35,
I think it's 30.
30. So it's quite accessible.
It
It's
is,
a cute little set.
considering how expensive the Ahsoka sets are. And this morning, here in London, they went on sale, and there was a queue like I've never seen for the big Lego store in Leicester Square, which is central London.
Ah, for this?
No, for the Ahsoka sets. They
Oh,
came
for
out
the
this morning.
okay. I gotcha. And you see the two lightsabers here? It's got storage for two lightsabers. We have the yellow saber and the blue saber. And I think they had in the one picture. There's there's Finn. That looks green. But I don't know. I'm gonna guess
Yeah, I
that's
don't know.
Ray's lightsaber. So Finn's handling Ray's lightsaber. Yeah. See.
I always look for early reviews for these kinds of things because with the Young Jedi Adventures set, I bought it and you're really just getting it for the minifigures. And so
Yeah.
it's no surprise to me that in most shops here, it's on sale because it's quite a steep price for very little actual Lego,
That's true. Yeah.
especially if you have kids. Like, it doesn't seem like a fun set to build with kids. It's like a one adult thing to do for like 10 minutes.
It's it's yeah it's you're getting the minifigs right for $30. You get a Ray, Finn, Chewie, Porg, and BB-8 um, with the lightsabers, and then a display piece. Right? It's really a display piece, and that would fit perfectly in Santa's office. I think that's fantastic. So there you go. I think it's fun. I like it quite a bit, and I thought it would be fun to just show that, talk about it a little bit, and then we have some news. We have news of the day. Let me see. I saw there's Nikki in the chat. Good to see you. It's a diorama set for sure. Yeah. What did Nikki said something earlier. Nikki said, or Seth says $20 at most. It'll probably go on sale after the holidays. for 15, 20, something like that. Um, what about the film that Chewie's dad was watching? I want that fig. Uh, I knew that.
I like the cooking lady in the
Yes,
holiday special. That's really funny. The one that Chewie's wife is watching.
whip stir. Yeah, it's so good, so good. The Bespin's published a couple of stories this week that are worth discussing. Before we get to the topic I put on the thumbnail, which is kind of just some fun speculation, but we had early news in the week that the folks over at what is the name of that
Samba TV.
Samba, yeah. Samba TV had Ahsoka's viewership numbers for episode 1 below that of Mandalorian, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and a Book of Boba Fett. Well, as news of that was starting, yeah, that was Harvey Korman. It was, and a lot of people know Harvey Korman from the Carol Burnett show. He and Tim Conway are absolutely hilarious together. And then that's Harvey Korman as the cooking lady. It's a bit of a spin-off of the lady that was really, really popular. I can't remember her name right now, but that's he does a great job of that character. But so anyway, in Samba TV, they had the numbers coming in lower. I think in response to that, Disney came out and released their numbers that it's 14 million viewers. Now, the calculation for these is entirely different. The population for the numbers are entirely different. Julia Childs, that's it, mumbo jumbo. Yeah, so Harvey Korman was doing a thing from kind of a take of Julia Childs in that. So if you're young like Meg, I'm just speaking words that make no sense. She's like, I don't know what you're saying.
I'm more in touch with those days than most people my age.
Yeah. Oh, good. So you know who Harvey Korman is?
No, but I know who Conway Twitty is.
Conway Twitty?
Yeah. I thought that's what you said the first time.
No. No. Harvey Korman with Tim Conway. Tim
Conway. I know who
Carol
Julia
Burnett.
Child is because my mum used to watch a bunch of her cooking stuff.
Oh, okay. Okay, very good. Very good.
See, Nikki got the Conway Twitty reference. Titty reference? Twitty reference.
That's twice. That's twice.
3 and it's a strike.
There was the Mount Tantus episode, but anyway,
The famous episode.
the famous, yes. 14 million here. 14 million that Disney released. The Samba TV is a fixed population of folks in North America, mainly the United States, who have those devices, and they measure what folks watch. It works very similar to the old Nielsen ratings, where people logged what they watched. Samba TV is essentially the same thing, and they then track all these shows, and you can see from their population, which is a sizable population. Right? It's more than a small number. Right? It's millions of people that they have. They're able to compare then how each of these shows do amongst those folks. But it's not the entire population of folks who have access to it or subscriptions or anything like that. So when Samba TV comes out and says it has 1.2 million, and then Disney comes out and says it has 14 million, well, they're not contradicting one another. They're completely different measures. And even the methodology for measuring is entirely different. So you don't have apples to apples here. And I think one of the major complaints that we've seen out of this is, okay, we can compare Samba's numbers from show to show to show across services. Disney Plus show us the same numbers for all the other shows. Let us see, like, is 14 million more, less, same as anything else? And then they also measure it by taking total minutes watched divided by the duration of the show, to come up with how many people watched the entire show. And they don't give you distinct viewers. They don't give you, subscribers, anything like that. So the 14 million is a big number, way bigger than 1.2, but it's not. It doesn't have a lot of context to it, right? It's really hard to make heads or tails of, is that 14 million fantastic or just good or middle of the road?
Impossible to tell. I think, if they're judging it compared to how Andor did with those with Samba TV, then it doesn't look great. But we're seeing hype for Ahsoka and marketing for Ahsoka all over the shop. So I failed to imagine it did as badly as Andor did in the first week. And that's no reflection on how good Andor is as a show. It's just a shame they didn't know how to market that. And I think they're learning.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of people can interpret numbers however they see fit, because 14 million sounds very similar to how Stranger Things season 1 did, which sounds amazing until you realize that Netflix and Disney Plus are using views and not viewers. So if someone watches it 5 times, that's recorded as 5 views. In the same way YouTube does. I think YouTube has a cap on how many times you can rewatch a video. But I don't think we'll ever know the truth.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things I think writers, directors, everybody, it's going to come down to actors. Everybody wants to have some standard of measure, so that when it comes to paying royalties, when it comes to paying the folks who worked on these projects, their share of the revenue, that they have something to measure. And right now, that's just completely obscured. It's clouded, really hard to make. And then the folks who are involved in it, who want paid, don't know if they're getting paid fairly or not. So that's one of the things that they want to revise. Like, this entire industry is so new. How do you do it? So I think that's a big deal. And I think you talked a little bit about this too. So episode 3 was a bit short, huh?
I think so.
Yeah.
But rewatching it the amount of times I have, not 14 million times, but a few times, I do believe that the pacing gets better the more you watch it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that's awkward the first time. I genuinely didn't expect the Balin scene to be the end of the episode. But I'm working on a video that should be out tomorrow about why Balin was like reflecting at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched Star Wars theory and the Plo Koon theory.
Yeah.
And that got me thinking deeply about what that could mean. And I don't necessarily agree with that theory, but I think fans who are along the lines of Balin being a deliberately familiar character are probably thinking along the right lines. And that's why I'm starting to think Marok is a distraction who's probably a nobody.
I see. And I've seen some wonderful theories about Marok. I want to mention something about this duration of episode 3 real quick. I said this the other day, and see if you agree or have different thoughts. To me, it felt like probably episode 4 and 3 go together as one arc. The 2 episodes together will tell that story, in that if you look at the runtime of episode 3, it's just over 30 minutes. Episode 4, the runtime on this is reported close to 40 minutes, 37, I think it is, without the end credits. Let's see if Bespin put it in the article here. There it is. It's a runtime of 42 minutes. And then I think if you take that if you take credits out, it's like 30, 38, 37, something like that. So if we take the little over 30 plus the almost 40, it makes the runtime of the two episodes together close to, well, just over an hour, right? Just over an hour. And they tend to want to keep these things in that 40-minute range, give or take. And it seemed to me like they split the episode intentionally so that it wouldn't run over an hour. And this is sort of like where a commercial break would be, and then it would just continue from there, right? If it were on like standard television. So I think that's a big portion of it. And when you can go back and watch this all in one fluid viewing, that 3 and 4 together will finish the story and then lead us to the second half of the show. Let's see.
Yeah, that's very reasonable. I think what's really refreshing as someone who takes issue with the way Mando season 3 was structured, I like that they're going back to what the first two seasons of The Mandalorian were, where in my opinion, they're setting up the second half before the halfway point. I was so worried with Ahsoka that we were going to have 5 episodes or 3 or 4 episodes where it's really good and then it just falls off.
Mm.
And it seems like they've done it just right. I like the slower moments in the third episode. I like the relationship between Ahsoka and Sabine. I made a video about it today. I think what that is doing for their character development is very much in line with what Dave wanted to explore in Rebels, which is sitting with these characters for a while. But now that we're moving into, Balin says to his HK-87s, like, go kill the Jedi, that's fascinating because they're going to get these rematches out the way, I think, next week.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to believe you. I mean, I never didn't believe you, but when you said we're going to get more Thrawn than just one episode, I think that might be episode 5 or 6, and that's so exciting that the whole season isn't just finding Thrawn.
Yeah, oh boy, you got me excited about something. And we've got a separate couple super chats. Hey, Bespin Bulletins is in the chat. Bespin, feel free to join us if you like. He's got the permanent link to get into the show if he wants. But he says 42 minutes with credits, closer to 38, 39 without credits, intro and recap. So when we talk about this episode, I thought going into the predictions for episode 3 that we were going to see that fight between Ahsoka and Balin that you see in the trailer, and where he says Anakin has had great things to say about you and that kind of stuff. I thought that was going to happen in this episode because Balin was there, Ahsoka was headed there, and the fight's going to happen. Then it took a turn on me, and we didn't get that. It was the lead up to it, and look, the episode was great, but it stopped just short of that fight. And if you go back and watch the unused footage, I saw somebody put together just a string of unused footage. Have you seen that?
I have. I saw it on Reddit.
Yeah.
The remaining footage.
Yeah, that's what I saw too. It's the unused footage. It's on Reddit, and you watch that straight through. The fight in the woods is, I think, coming in this next episode, as well as the fight with Balin. So that's episode 4. Bespin's already told us episode 5 is our Anakin episode, right?
And not just Anakin. I sent you this in the Discord because I'm not publicly going to make a deal about this because I've been burned with things I've heard before and then they don't pan out and you get people's hopes up.
Right.
But if they're true, episode 5 sounds like that's the episode. And I think if that delivers what I've heard it's delivering, I think word will spread and these numbers will just fly off the charts.
Yeah, I agree. If just looking at the broad story uh, the brushstrokes. It looks like episode 4 will be the fight, and probably the Ion leaves. Episode 5, we get from all looks of things, episode 5 is going to be very, very good. It's going to be almost an hour long, and it's got the Anakin stuff in it. It's got some of the Ahsoka's character development. I'm trying to think of how to, gently say that. But there's some things coming with Ahsoka's character in episode 5 that should be outstanding. And I'm not sure how that ties into them chasing after Thrawn at that same, or after the Eye of Sion. But I expect that by the end of episode 5, Ahsoka and crew will end up where the Eye of Sion goes, and then we get 6, 7, 8 with the whole ordeal in that other galaxy. So this season's building to a crescendo, and if it ends the way that our friends Jason and Bespin have kind of alluded to, then it should be amazing. It should be an amazing season by the end of the day. Yeah. We got a couple of super chats. $10 from Mumbo Jimbo. Thank you for the super chat. Oh, says, hello, Santa and Meg. Do you think that they left the fight off the episode 3 because it's long enough that whatever other part of episode 4 there is, it would have been too short? Okay. So if you take the fights out of, or you cut it after the fights, yeah, I think episode 4 is going to be almost all fight, and I don't think there would be anything
I've got one
left.
rebuttal to this, though. I don't think they just edited it out, because there are distinct directors between 3 and 4. The Balin shot seems deliberately extended to end there, and when you rewatch it, it seems more deliberate than the first time I saw it. So I'd say they deliberately paced it like this. I don't think it's like they had a huge episode and then they decided, no, we're going to cut this.
Okay, I was thinking it was more of that, but you're probably right. I didn't think about the different directors for 4 and 3 and 4.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, but we said the same about Mando episode 7 and 8. But weren't they both by Rick Famuyiwa? So it's more believable. That was cut.
Right. And I didn't go back and look at the directors for episode 3 and 4 and see that they were different. So yeah, that supports that they actually just didn't. Well, when Dave storyboarded it, and we heard this, right? Dave put together animations for all the episodes, right? Rough animations, and then from what we heard, that when they did the story reads, that he recorded the reads and put them over top of his animation. And so as you're going through each of these episodes, they've got these storyboard animations of all the episodes that the directors worked from. So I'm sure Dave just looked at it and said, okay, here's where this story, divides. You've got this one, you've got that one. And speaking of that, how bad do you want to see that animation outline that Dave did?
Somewhat. I think it'd be good to see, but I like that it's live action.
Yeah.
I don't think they're fully rendered. I don't think they're full Star Wars Rebels quality.
Oh no, definitely not. Definitely not. It's more like animated storyboards if I were, it pictured in my head. And maybe we'll get glimpses of it in the gallery when they eventually give us a making of the season 1 of Ahsoka. That would be just wonderful. Just to get some idea of what it looked like as they were going through it. Hopefully we get some of that. And then Mike Yaney, $2 super chat, said theories on the theory Sabine will turn dark side. Oh, I saw that. We're going to talk a little bit about that in just a moment when we get to the topic of the thumbnail. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. So let me ask you this as we start to pivot. Named characters. Do you think any of the named characters, so Morok, Balin, Shin, um, or any of the oh shoot, what's her name? Morgan Elsbeth, Thrawn, anybody? Do you think of those named characters, any of them die?
No, only because we do this every time we see a show. We think everything's going to happen in season one, and I just know better than to expect some humongous thing like a main villain dying. I think they might do the Cara Dune thing. If they do a season two and Balin lives, they'll do, oh, Balin's out doing whatever with Thrawn or Morgan Elsbeth or whatever. I don't think they counted for Balan and Shin dying. We expect too much from first seasons, and there was the My Time to Shine Hello rumor that season two had already begun before the strikes. So to be honest, yeah, maybe Marok, but I can't imagine any big character, villain, or hero dying this season.
I agree with you completely on that. I think if anybody dies, it'd probably be Merrick.
Mhm.
And then we'll find out nothing else about him, nothing special. Not Star Killer. He's not the clone of Kanan Jarrus. He's not Lauk. He's not anybody else, right? And I've heard all those things. That he's a dark side clone of Kanan Jarrus. He's a clone of Ezra Bridger. He is Ezra Bridger who's going dark side. He's, there's dozens of theories about who Merok is. I think it's more likely he'll die and we'll never get any more backstory, at least in this series of where he comes from, who he is, and how he got to where he is. I think they're building these characters for that movie, and it's more likely we get a recasting of Balin, which is tragic, but would be more honoring to the character that Rey has given us to this point, and we just hope that the fans embrace the character and that the work Rey did is appreciated by the fandom, going forward. So,
Have you heard my Anakin theory to do with Balin?
no, I don't think so.
It's the idea that Balin wants to turn back time
Oh yes,
to stop Anakin from turning to the dark side so the Jedi Order survived. The reason I love that theory is because it gives Ahsoka the most challenging dilemma.
it does. I would love to see. I agree with you. I think that Balin's motivation, other than just being a guy who's for hire, right? I mean, that's clear. He's like, I sure would hate to have to kill Ahsoka. There's so few of these Jedi left. That'd be sad. And she's like, what? Are you not going to do it? Well, no. I mean, you pay me. I'll go do it. But it's like so. That's certainly his primary motivation. But that he would have additional motivation to use the world between worlds to go back and kill Anakin before he became Vader. There's plenty of people who I think agree with you that could be a story arc.
Because remember that Morgan Elsbeth says Thrawn speaks to me through space and time.
Right.
And I don't know if this plays into what we've heard about the Mustafar flashback or vision. I don't know if it's going to be World Between Worlds as per se, but it might be a version of that. It might be, when Balin says, when Shin asks him, what's in it for us? And he says, power such as you can never imagine, or whatever he says, something to that extent. And I think that to me connects to what he says in the trailer, which probably is in the next episode when he says, Anakin spoke highly of you. Few lived to see what he became.
Right. So he knows.
And I think there's a huge clue when they zoom in on his hand
Oh,
that
I saw
his
you.
obsession with Anakin is what drives him. And I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. That he's got some obsidian. It appears that it could be an obsidian ring. Right. It's a
For
ring with a
Mustafar.
black stone. And it's very possible that that could be obsidian from Mustafar. Exactly. Um, I just, we get really excited about some of these ideas, right? But we also have a show, and the show story arc is focused in one direction, right? And having Ahsoka, Sabine, and Hera, presumably, go stop Thrawn from returning and starting a war. And so, how far can we go down these other trails, chasing Balin's history, his relationship to Shin, who I think could very well be his daughter, and the backstory? How did he escape Order 66? Where was he? What was his relationship to Anakin prior to that? Were they, Padawans together? Were they, did they go on any missions together? Did anything happen with them? They just bump into each other in the cafeteria one day? I don't know. Right? Oh, there's so much to be told about Balin, and all of it is fascinating. It could be explored in comics for sure, in other media, and I hope that we get a backstory and we get to explore his character. They've certainly given us a lot to be excited about. I just don't know that we're going to get to see any of that play out in this show.
So I've got some bits of evidence, and I don't know how they fit together, but can I just list them?
Yeah.
So first of all, the Republic headsets that Shin has.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that could tie into Balin's obsession with Anakin and Vader's life. So maybe that's Anakin's exact one. It could just be one from the Republic. It could tell us how he survived Order 66. It might have been like Plo Koon, he was shot down, and he just happened to get lucky and Plo Koon didn't. The second piece of evidence is the Obsidian Ring, which connects to Vader's castle on Mustafar. Have we considered he may have been one of the Knights of Ren in the War of the Bounty Hunters comics? Because they went to Mustafar and they got caught by Vader between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So those for me are like little nuggets of information about him.
There's so much. There's so much. And I hope that we get to see that. And Matt Risman's getting on a cruise. He's going to take a ship over to the Bahamas. I think. No, I'm off. Bermuda. He's headed to Bermuda. So Matt, have a wonderful vacation, Arthur. Hope you have a great time. Yeah, there's so much about who he could be. I want to pivot fully into the thumbnail question, though. The thumbnail question was a new Jedi will rise. That's in the one of the spots, and I've actually seen it in commercials as we're watching other shows. Risman's on the Star Cruiser. No, that's where Jason is. Jason Ward, making Star Wars. He's on the Star Cruiser. I gave it away. But I saw him post it, so he shared some of that outside of just us. So I don't think that I've spoiled anything for Jason. But a new Jedi will rise. I think that there's a minimum of 3. You mentioned a 4th that this could be in reference to. In the trailer, when it says a new Jedi will rise, it's all in the context of Ahsoka. But we all know, we all know that Ahsoka was a Jedi and she's turned away. I am no Jedi. And she repeats that over and over again. when it says a new Jedi will rise, well, she wouldn't be new, right? She would be a Jedi returns or something like that. So,
Mhm.
who do you think that they mean when they say, oh, well, let me throw out the other names, first of all. The other one very well could be Sabine, right? Ahsoka is trying to train Sabine. Sabine's trying to tap into the Force, to use the Force. At this point, she, whatever Force, lost Meg, should be back. Whatever Force sensitivity that Sabine has, it could be limited. And then the third that we see is Jason Syndulla. He shows up in episode 3, and he says, "I want to be a Jedi, like his dad." Right? His dad is Kanan Jarrus, Jedi Knight. Kanan Jarrus, Jedi Master. So those 3 are on the thumbnail because they've all been shown to us so far. And when they say a new Jedi will rise, are they talking about Ahsoka? Are they talking about Sabine? Are they talking about Jason? But as Meg told me right before we came on the stream, there's a fourth. Could they be talking about Ezra Bridger? Ezra is Force sensitive. He's been trained by Kanan, but he was never, hey, you made it back. We lost you.
My internet cut out for a minute.
So I've outlined Ahsoka, Sabine, Jason, and Ezra. A new Jedi will rise. Who do you think that is?
Sabine.
Sabine.
Just by logical deduction, for casual audiences, it's the obvious choice based on what we've seen. I've kind of come to terms with Sabine using the Force if she eventually is successful. I don't think Dave would have gone to this extent to just do a fake out thing, and she doesn't know how to use it by the end of the season. I think that's where it's going, at least.
I think so too. But I think if you just take the simple part, the vast majority of fans, the vast majority of people who are watching this show have never seen Ahsoka in animation. They've certainly not read her book. So the only context that they have for Ahsoka is the 4 or 5 times now that we've seen her in live action. Right? We saw her in Mandalorian. We saw her in Mandalorian 2, Mandalorian 3, and in her show, right? So in those cases, that's the only introduction people have had. And then would she be the Jedi that rises? She's new to the vast audience that's out there, or is that just like too insulting to fans who have been fans of hers and know that she has been a Jedi? Well, I don't know that she ever was a Jedi technically either, right? She was a Padawan. When they said that, you've passed your trial, and they offer to make her a Jedi, she turns away. So she's never been truly a Jedi. So I guess they could make her a new Jedi, right?
I think it's important to preface this conversation with the acknowledgement that Dave, I think, if you really analyze the way he's structured Ahsoka, respecting George Lucas to the T with every single decision.
Yeah.
And he knows we're having these conversations about Sabine. He wants us to be like, surely not. And then some people to be like, well, it's fine. He likes this dialogue, and that's exactly what George did. He would throw us these curveballs, and I trust if Dave Filoni continues that it's going to pay off in some way. And I'm still going with the theory that she needs to find Ezra to get that mental hurdle out the way, because Kanan was like, Hera's the one who said to Kanan, she's so Mandalorian, and I suspect she has some Force sensitivity, and maybe Ezra's better suited to take on the training.
Yeah, perhaps. I think there's a possibility we could see Sabine use the Force when she is put under severe stress. And I say that because there's a scene in the trailer where she's on the ground and she lifts her hand up and she's like, seems to be trying to push or access the Force. And like people who are in emergency situations have this rush of adrenaline and they're able to do like superhuman feats of strength because of the adrenaline of the moment. She may be able to have a Force breakthrough in that moment of adrenaline push and have some success.
And you know what that means, though, Santa, don't you?
What?
The dark side.
Well, that
We
goes
might have
back.
a Rey moment, on Pisano when she uses Force lightning. I kind of love that. No, I don't think Sabine will turn to the dark side, but going back to the question someone asked earlier,
Yep.
there might be a moment of, okay, well, that's how I tap into the dark. That's why Heian was telling me, I'm not suited to be a Jedi.
Right. Well,
I
Ryan
kind of love that
Arian,
idea.
Ryan Arian at Screen Crush did a big video on it. He broke it all the way down and to all the hints and all the signs that are there. And he thinks at least his video, he's presenting that it's a probability or some likelihood that she will tap into the Force using the dark side energy, but that he says he does not think that she will fall to the dark side, become like Sith, but she would have to wrestle with having used the Force the way that she does. Like you said, a kind of a Rey kind of moment where she had to then wrestle with, I did that thing. Oh my goodness, I'm a monster, we could see something like that. Let's see. What was it? Ray, Real Ben Maynard says, it makes me think that with Dave's history on Avatar, The Last Airbender, maybe they used Sabine having the Force similar to Aang, accessing the Avatar state when in severe danger. Yeah, Ben, I think you're onto something there. And that very well could be the case. And I didn't even think about Dave working on The Last Avatar, but that's true. Roland New says, it's a good point, Meg. Great point. He says, great point, Meg. I don't think Sabine will be a Jedi or Sith. Rather, just a Force user. No affiliation to either side, but good in her heart, like Ahsoka, after she leaves the Order. I could see her using the Force, like you're saying, have a Rey moment. And then when she's reunited with Ezra, later Ezra helps her deal with her anger and those emotions, because Ezra's already gone through that journey himself. Ahsoka has too, to some degree, especially in the Mortis arc. We see her go really, really dark in that Mortis arc. But I think Ezra and the relationship between Sabine and Ezra could very well be how she works that out. Yeah, Seth,
I
go
get
ahead.
a suspicion that this might all pay off through Ahsoka's place in the Force. Like, I saw Star Force 1's video about Ahsoka the White, the retcon.
Yeah,
I'm still adamant that hasn't happened yet.
me too.
I don't think that scene was a one-to-one with Rebels.
Oh, you're going that far. I think Dave retconned it.
You think so?
Yeah, I think he retconned it. I think when he originally did Rebels, he thought, okay, this is going to happen after the original trilogy. This is going to happen sometime after Like, because he already had Jason Syndulla, around 10 years old, 12 years old, like he is in the show. So he kind of had this story arc that by the time Ahsoka comes back, she's going to return to Ahsoka the White. And then when he starts working with Jon Favreau and he starts then plotting out this Ahsoka series, he's like, oh, wait, I'm not ready for whatever it is that he thinks she needs to go through. She hasn't gone through that yet, and he didn't get to tell that story yet, and he wants to tell it. So rather than have her show up here as Ahsoka the White and it go back to tell how she got there, I think he wants to hold that and then show it later. So he just retconned it.
So you think it'll be used in a different context, or?
I do, and I don't want to get...
Because you know the answer.
Yeah, I do.
I know you know the answer.
I'll talk to you after we go off of the live stream. I don't want to say something here. Yeah, I just don't want to say something here. I'll hold off. I'll talk to you after the live stream about it just a bit. So that being said, yesterday Mike Porter gave us a non-Star Wars dad joke. It had to do with horses. And today I had to go over and feed my dad's horses. I had to give them hay. But that was yesterday's dad joke. Mike Porter gave us a Star Wars dad joke for today. And it says, when you're a Jedi and you're being chased through space, what do you do? Well, you stay calm and don't have a stroke. Mike, you get it. Rob wants us to speculate. Now, let me just say, at a very generic level, that we could see Ahsoka go through some of this transformation to become Ahsoka the White, even in this season of Ahsoka. How about that?
Speculate. Can I ask a question? I hate to make this derail, but is Roland New the same Roland I follow on Twitter?
I don't know.
Because I don't know how many Rolands we have in our community, because I've seen Roland a few times and I don't know if they're the same person.
He'll have to tell you. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, here's a question, Santa.
Okay.
If Jason is the new Jedi that will rise, who will train him?
Oh, that's a great question. I think Luke Skywalker.
Really?
Skywalker. Yeah. Luke is in the midst of building his academy. We saw him with the little robots putting the stones on top of stones and all that kind of thing. He's in the midst of building that place that we see in The Last Jedi. But and I see Seth says Ezra. Ezra could be involved, but I think it's very likely Jason could go to Luke, because he's going to have the Jedi Academy. That's who Ahsoka's going to recommend. Like, hey, like he did with Grogu, we should go take him to Luke to be trained. What do you think?
I'm not too sure. I don't know what they're going to do with Jason. They might not even address it in the Ahsoka series.
Right.
Because if Jon Favreau was like, we're going to tell this big story lasting from end of Return of the Jedi to The Force Awakens.
Yep.
They can push all of this back to a different show.
Yes. Agreed. Completely agreed. Yeah. Completely agreed. There's something else I was going to ask you about the upcoming episodes, and I just lost it. There was something else in seeing this play out. I know. Back to the quote on I hear Thrawn's returning as heir to the Empire, right, from that early trailer. we don't, I think you agree, we don't expect to see them retell Heir to the Empire as we knew it. But do you think that we are going to see elements of Heir to the Empire in the remaining of the books? Like, so some involvement with Mount Tantus, or some involvement with Luke, Han, Leia, that align to those books in the latter half of this season? Do you think we might get that kind of surprise, or no?
I think that ship has sailed. The way Heir to the Empire is set up is dramatically different already to what Ahsoka's doing. The only similarity I saw was Hamato Giono, which is Kazuda's dad,
Yep.
the senator in the hologram. He is exactly the personality type of Failure, who was one of the Bothans of the New Republic,
Uh,
and a big reason for their downfall. So, not to get too deep into the New Republic politics, but there were two big factions, the centrists and the populists. And he was kind of playing both sides, if that makes sense, and using his personal power for resources on core worlds, and he just wasn't a very good guy. The instant reason I say there's no similarity between Heir to the Empire and Ahsoka is they're not doing a duality like they did with Luke and Leia. So you could say, well, that's Ahsoka and Sabine. But to me, this just feels more like The Force Awakens. It's more star maps, more someone is lost. And in a way, there's a similarity to the Hand of Thrawn duology, this idea of rumors of Thrawn's return. But I don't think it resembles Heir to the Empire at all. If anything, this could set up an Heir to the Empire style story. But I'm also happy they're not just retelling the story of Heir to the Empire, and I don't know how they would do that, given how
yeah.
important Luke is and our main kind of original trilogy characters.
Right. And I was asked earlier this week, am I not upset that we're in the time where Luke is in his prime and we're getting so very little Luke Skywalker? I wish that we would see more, but I understand the limitations of the technology, and that the actors, of course, we don't have Carrie with us anymore. The actors just cannot play those roles at that age, even with the technology. I don't think, because first of all, Carrie isn't with us, and then when you talk about Harrison and Mark, I don't know that that's really feasible. I would love to see that in animation form, because then you could have them in the height of their power, like that, and in their youth and all of that, right? You get a great story, but I just don't think that we can include that. And in that Heir to the Empire, as you're saying, they're really the core of that story. Han and Leia going and helping out the Rook's people. What are they? Oh shoot, I can't remember the species.
The Bimisari?
No, Rook's species. There's the planet
Nogri.
Nogri. Yeah, the Nogri, and building trust with the Nogri, which ends up into getting Rook to kill Thrawn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And her going with Chewie back to Kashyyyk, Han going to Mount Tantus, Luke, of course, finding Joruus, Sabaoth, and then that whole thing coming together at Mount Tantus. It's just not set up to do that, especially not with those characters. And even if you were to kind of replace bits of them here and there with, say, Ahsoka instead of Luke, replace Han and Leia with other characters from the Mandoverse, say, Din Djarin or whatever. It's just not going to satisfy fans of Heir to the Empire to see it pulled apart like that. I don't think it could work. And I agree with you. I've been listening to um, the duology, and there are some similarities there. In fact, a lot more there than in Heir to the Empire. And yeah, I could see them adapting that more, but I don't. I don't think it's going to happen. Do you think that we will see Han, Luke, or Leia, or any of them at all as a cameo, like at the end? Like we got the big Luke Skywalker reveal at the end of Mando season 2. Do you think we get any Han, Luke, or Leia at all?
Doubtful,
Yeah.
but maybe. And the only reason I say maybe is because we had that character poster of Mon Mothma,
Mm-hmm.
and she's not in a hologram.
Mm.
And maybe at the end of the season, we'll do a big New Republic reveal where they realize Hera was right, and then she contacts some of the leading people of the New Republic government, which should be Admiral Akbar, um, Leia, Han, Luke, and Maydeen.
Mm. Oh, yeah. There's a name I hadn't thought of. But um, so the last question, and we'll wrap it up. The last question is about the state, and Nerd Mafia asked this or brought this up the other day. The state of the New Republic is they're fairly inept and fairly blind to what's going on, and that's why it ties in really well to the Thrawn duology with the rise of Luke's girlfriend, like Mara Jade, right? As and you got this whole hand of Thrawn and all that going on, and it's very similar in that the New Republic doesn't want to believe that the remnants of the Empire are any threat whatsoever, like at all. And anytime it's brought up, they're like they they're they're pathetic. There's nothing to worry about. They're and then there's no concern whatsoever over trying to stamp out the remnants of the empire. They're like, it's dying on its own. We'll leave it alone. We don't need to mess with it. And we are seeing that here. But are you at all bothered by or annoyed by the competency or incompetence of the New Republic as it's been set up in the Mandoverse?
I think they have to be incompetent. And if you watch the Starkiller base scene from The Force Awakens, that's where it's leading to. General Hux, the son of the other Hux who we saw in Mando, saying, this will be the
Armitage,
last day of the
right?
Republic, Armitage Hux. And Mon Mothma, the acting by Genevieve O'Reilly in this last episode was great because you could see the shock in her face when Hera mentions Grand Admiral Thrawn. I think Mon Mothma had a moment of realization that this big government she set up, which in some ways is no better than the Empire with their methods of indoctrination and their punishments, I think she realized it's not as secure as she thought it would be. And her own politics clash with those of her fellow senators.
Mm-hmm.
And she ultimately wins that with the Demilitarization Act. And, Massamida goes behind her back. There's a whole, interesting period, and they're doing it perfectly. They need to show the incompetency at this early stage because it's in these kind of transitional years between the Empire and the New Republic and then the First Order where things fall apart for the good guys. And she wants various worlds to be autocratic and, use their own resources and their own needs. And that's why we saw in The Mandalorian, they didn't want to help on Navarro. They don't want to help on Cetos and the Denab system in this show.
Mm-hmm.
And the more they do that, the more they leave worlds open to being attacked. And that's what happens. Wedge Antilles goes to, someone in the chat might know this, he goes to a planet that desperately needs No, they're an Imperial holdout, and
Hmm.
that's Mon Mothma's realization that not everyone's on board with this New Republic.
Right, right. And them being so set upon the only threat to the New Republic are the remnants of the Empire, and those remnants are a no threat. And what we could see with and again, we see it in the Thrawn duology, and I've been listening to it the last couple weeks. We see it in there as well. They believe that that is no threat, and why stir the pot when it'll die on its own? Um, and they're trying to overcome the heavy hand of the Empire on all these planets and worlds and systems, and any thought of militarization or of a strong central government is is opposite of what the New Republic wants to create coming out of the age of the Empire. So you need to see this deliberate demilitarization, and we're getting little snippets of that throughout Mandalorian and now Ahsoka, the deliberate demilitarization. And what do you do when a big portion of your population, like coming out of World War II in Nazi Germany, what do you do when you had some folks that worked for the military who are now citizens, and where did their loyalties rise? Are they truly rehabilitated, or are they harboring secret affiliation back to the Empire? I think all of that plays in, and the desire to see a really strong, really efficient, really clean and prosperous New Republic doesn't take into full account just the turmoil they're coming out of with the Empire and the damage that Palpatine created throughout the galaxy. And when that whole thing collapses, and you see it like his Operation Cinder and all of that, it's a scorched earth kind of policy where everything is burned to the ground. And now the First Order, or not the First Order, the New Republic is kind of trying to pick up the pieces and not become the thing that they fought to not be, right? So, sort of like George Lucas becoming the big corporate entity that he didn't want to be. I think there's a parallel to be made there too. Right? He's an independent filmmaker, and he fought against the bureaucracy of the big studios, only to become a big studio himself. So, there's a lot of stuff there that can be kind of played into the universe and the world building. And I think it's all consistent with George Lucas, and it's things that we should be really excited about as a fandom through this, seeing that the New Republic is inept and how it becomes the thing that we see. How does the First Order rise out of that? Well, because they didn't think it was a thing until it was too late. So that raises another question, and I think we'll see it come through the end of this season. And I'm going to just leave this as an open-ended question to a degree. So if what they see is that the remnants of the Empire are no threat, and Thrawn returns as a threat, how does that then shake the beliefs of the New Republic, and how do they move forward between the time when Thrawn returns and the Force Awakens? How's this going to work?
It's a big question. It appears to me that John and Dave kind of changed the roadmap to suit them along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So any ideas we have now, any ideas they might have now, might not be what eventually ends up happening.
Yeah, it could butt heads a little bit with the Aftermath series.
I think so.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Well, Meg, hang on a minute. I'll tell you what I was thinking when we get off of
Okay.
the stream. And
I'll wait.
thank you so much. Thanks for being here and
Thank you,
hanging out with
Santa.
me today. And
I appreciate it.
I hope you have a wonderful weekend, my friend. We've got big plans here. Our daughter's marriage wedding reception is tomorrow. We've got family coming in from out of state. She's got friends, relatives, everybody coming together to celebrate her marriage. And of course, they got married in a like an elopement back in May. But now is the time to celebrate it together as a family. So we've got a really big celebration tomorrow. We've got some family things going on tonight. Kayla's in from Kansas City. We've been having a great time as a family brought back together. And I know you've got some plans for the weekend. I hope you have a good one, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Santa.
Sure.
Thank you for having me here.
All right, we'll see you in a minute. You guys, thanks for being here. I hope you all have a wonderful day, a fantastic weekend. And thank you all so much for your support and for being here as we talked about Star Wars today. You guys take care. And until next time, my friends, ho, 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 Merry Christmas. And may the Force be with you always. Bye-bye.